Hey everyone, it's Ron Milligan with Remax Select coming to you from our office here in Portland's Pearl District. And I am very excited to bring you the latest weekly market statistics for the Portland metro area. This is for the full metro area, Washington and Oregon included. And what we'll be looking at are the usual numbers, the kind of the supply numbers, the demand numbers, the homes that actually sold, how they did on the market, and some of my thoughts at the very end there. So the first thing is the number of homes sold. It was up from the previous week. We're at 673. The previous week we're at 567. And this does make sense because we're probably looking at the homes that went under contract at the end of January and the beginning of February. And the beginning of February is when we had our frenzy sort of kickoff in certain areas. So there was a lot of activity. So it's not surprising that a lot of homes are starting to close. Just for context, I will look back at last year, that pretty much the same week, that number was 611 versus 673. So this is now the second week in a row where we have actually outpaced the number of sales this year versus last year. And last year, I mean, we sold a record number of homes nationally and an enormous amount of homes in Portland as well. So it's surprising that we're starting to outpace last year, or at least we have been for the last couple of weeks. When we're looking at active listings, the number was 1754. Last week when I checked that number, it was 1718. So it pretty much stayed the same. I did do my little trick where I looked at Friday afternoon just to see what the high number was going to be. Most agents list their homes, list the homes for sale Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So most homes that are going to hit the market this week should have been on the market by Friday afternoon. At that time, the number was 2020. So we did see a larger number of homes at that high point than we have been seeing in past weeks. So we know that more homes are hitting the market, but the demand seems to be more than enough to gobble them up and put them under contract. So the number of pending deals was 4791 versus last week 4631. That number's rising, not a surprise there given the amount of activity we have and the number of deals that we have going under contract. For the number of new pending deals, that number was 847 versus 857, so it pretty much stayed the same last week versus this week, so not a big surprise there. For context, for our supply, so the number of active listings, that number is 1754. I looked back at this pretty much the same week last year. That number was 2108, which is a 16.8% a reduction in the number of active listings. So our supply is 16.8% less last year than we had last year for active listings. And for pendings, that number was down 9.7%. So we had more pendings last year than we have right now. And I think part of the reason for that is last year during our off season, which is, November, December, January, when realtors are supposed to be, sleeping till noon and eating bonbons and reading movie magazines, because no one's looking at real estate. During that time period last year, our market was starting, it was just really going crazy, and it was leading up to that frenzy that we experienced last spring. This year, this most recent year, so 2021, that didn't happen. We did take a rest period between like Thanksgiving and New Year's, and then our market really started to kick in towards the end of January. So I think that's the reason why we have more a larger number of pending listings last year versus what we have this year. So for the homes that did sell, average days on market was 22. Last year at this time it was 29. Median days on market was 5. Last year was also 5. So not a big change there. Average sale price, we're looking at $589,434 versus last year $545,710. That's about an 8% increase in the average sale price. The median was about a 7.4% increase first 2 months of last year versus the first 2 months of this year. When we just got our February numbers, and I'll be doing a video about that, so our RMLS numbers for the entire month of February, that number was 10.5%. So keep in mind, January at the end of 2021, we ended at about 15.8% higher than the previous year. January, just comparing month to month, that number was down to 14. February, we're down to 10%, 10.5%. And right now we're seeing, our weekly number is 8%. I suspect that that number will start to, it's hard to say. I suspect that we're still going to have a pretty aggressive market with multiple offers and properties bidding over asking price. It's going to push our average sale price up as we go towards May. But keep in mind that last year was a very aggressive year with hyper appreciation, hyper acceleration on purchase prices. So we're comparing a very good year to another very good year versus last year when we were comparing 2021 to the start of the pandemic and 2020. So those numbers look a lot better last year than they're going to look this year. The last thing is the average sale price. What did properties sell for? So they listed. Most homes sold for above asking price. The average was 104.44% above the asking price. And when we look at the original asking price, the number wasn't much different. It was 104.16. So someone listed the property, maybe they did a slight price reduction and then sold the property at 104.16 above the average sale price. So what we're seeing on the market, I think is, I mentioned this last week, is that the condo market has started showing multiple offers on properties that are in great shape, great condition, so on and so forth. And usually that's the segment of the market that's the last to jump on board when things start turning around. Of course, this is a different situation because people were really concerned about shared airspace, stuff like that. So condos really suffered during the pandemic, but we're starting to see condo properties moving a lot quicker. Next week, I'm going to pull those numbers for the last 30 days, and that'll give us a little more context. But as condos start to really move, it says to me that the regular market is probably still going to maintain some strength as we go forward. And of course, we'll keep an eye on it and let you know if any of that changes. Always feel free to reach out to us if you've got a question about what's going on in your municipality, your area, your neighborhood. We're always happy to share what we know. And we'll see you next week.